Welcome as always, Metal Summoners. We appreciate you guys tuning in as always, rocking out mid through your week because we like to start the weekends on Wednesday. That's how we look at it. As always, this is your Island of Misfit Toys being hosted by the one and only Empress Bobby Dreyer. We've got We've got the late birthday boy, Psycho Steve, joining us very, very shortly. And we will bring in our guests ever so very shortly because we like to kick off the episodes, as always, talking about what's going on in the land of the Metal Summit. And we're actually going to kick it down to Bobby and also have Angel co-sign on that a little bit as well as they talk about the experience that they just had in New Jersey for Oh Lordy, Psycho Steve turned 40 again, the benefit show that he put on last weekend. Bobby, Angel, talk about how you guys did.
Dude, what a great venue. I have to say, if anybody's my first time there in Lake Como, Bar A is bar none. That place kicked ass. The bands that were there, I got to give a major kudo for a good friend of ours who was on last week, Mr. Damien Monte Carlo and Ahmed. Those guys rocked it. Ronnie, Blues Vultures, 10-Ton Mojo,
Yes.
Bobby D, Petra. I mean, everybody that was in there, and we walked in, and it was like, the cool thing about it, Jay, I got to tell you, me, Angel, and Steve were there, and you would have thought we owned this effing town. And it was like that. The cool, it was great to see how many people who watched the show and were there. But great shout out to the venue. I'm telling you, any bands looking for a gig, that's the shit to go to. I mean, look, you got a beach a half a block away. The bar is huge. Sound system's amazing. People are great there. Definitely worth booking an event there.
That's awesome, man. Angel, how about yourself, man? Talk about your experience.
I was just happy to be experiencing live music because I haven't since M3. But blues, the Blues Vultures, God bless Ronnie that he's out alive and kicking, playing shows and everything. Bob D with Petrol definitely kicked ass. 10-Ton Mojo, I was just fucking amazed at how great they were.
Yeah.
Like they go on stage and they blow your mind right away. The singer kind of reminds you of a young Chris Robinson from the Black Crowes.
Nice.
Definitely.
And you know what? Go out and support live music. And I know we say that a lot, but a lot of these bands, gas prices are high. They're paying for gas to get to the gigs. They're paying for the equipment, all of that stuff. So buy a shirt. I actually got myself a Whiskey Grin shirt finally.
Nice.
And had the chance to talk to the guys, and they definitely want to come back on the show. So we're going to make that happen because they're working on new material, and they want to come back to talk about that and a whole bunch of other stuff.
And Jay, really, before we kick it, we got to give a big thank you for Steve for doing it.
Yeah.
When it was his birthday, it was his event, and everything. Go to rockandrecoveryfoundation.org. What a great organization, and Steve for doing this, and given his time and everything, and even his birthday. I mean, it's just a great thing. And look, I know we're at a downtime right now. Everything's a pain in the ass and whatever, but look, it doesn't need to be a lot. And look, even your time is something to give. And I think everybody who came out deserves a big thank you and a pat on the back. And it was just great seeing everybody there on Sunday.
Absolutely. No, 100%. And fans, we couldn't appreciate you guys any more than going out and supporting these bands, supporting Steve, and just supporting Rock and Recovery. They're a fantastic foundation. They really put their heart and soul into everything they do about protecting musicians and looking out for really good causes and keeping people's health in the forefront. So we really appreciate all of that for sure. And then coming up in a few short weeks, we've got the next event that all of the Metal Summit will be present for. You've been hearing about us, talking about it for months. It's been the last series of interviews that we've been doing. Tonight being no different. We will be bringing in that handsome gentleman very shortly. But Angel and the Bobby and the Steve will be in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania in a few short weeks at the end of July for Masquerade at the 2300 Arena. We are really, really excited for that. It's going to be absolutely incredible. It's 3 days, got an artist showcase with locals and regionals kicking it off on Thursday. We have got Friday is going to be absolutely fantastic with Steven Adler, Pretty Boy Floyd, Tokyo Motor Fist, and another band I think we might be talking a little bit about tonight. And then also we are shutting it down on Saturday with a phenomenal dual headliner of Autograph and Killer Dwarves, along with Babylon Shakes, who you saw last week, and all kinds of other amazing bands that we have playing on that day as well. So we're really, really stoked. Fans, keep getting your tickets and get out there to Philadelphia because it's going to be an absolute blast. It's going to be a true rock and roll experience. So we really got to show love and appreciation to Brad and Angie for everything that they're doing and the whole BLE crew that's, really been putting their pedal to the metal and really grinding it out for that. But like I said, there's something about that Friday night show that we're really, really excited about because we are being joined by one of the featured bands of that being Dirty Looks. We've got Gene Barnett in the house tonight.
Hi.
What's up, bro?
Yeah.
Good, man. Good. Thanks for taking a little bit of time.
In landscape mode because I saw you were and you didn't tell me that during our pre-production.
Oh, it's all good, man. We like to throw a little bit of uniqueness into everybody. But anyway, thanks so much, brother. How are you doing today?
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
Great.
Good, man. We're doing good. Cheers, brother. That's quite a smile you've got there.
It kind of helps me through the day,
Absolutely, for sure. So we were just talking about how we've got Dirty Looks playing in Philadelphia and all the Metal Summit's going to be there. So talk a little bit about what's going on. How's it been getting back out there playing? And what do we get to know right now about the Dirty Looks camp?
Well, it was pretty tough getting everything together. It took decades for one, just to get to the point where we got to the show. Because we were actually planning to get together while Henrik was still alive. And I should have written down every obstacle because it would have been funny, not funny to keep track of and just to relay all of the obstacles that we went through to get to being able to play our Sealands Grove show last year. But so yeah, we planned. It went back to, I guess, around 2007-ish when Henrik put out Gasoline and Super Deluxe. We actually got back together for some writing for those albums. And then just through varying situations, I did not end up being on those. And ultimately, with Henrik's passing, we didn't get to play any shows. But so I'd kind of given up on the whole doing some Dirty Look shows at that point. Hi, Jeannie. And so it took a little bit to get me there, just because without Henrik, all of my immediate thoughts were, well, I mean, there's no way you can do a Dirty Looks without Henrik. And so one day I got the bright idea to reach out to Henrik's wife because he has 2 kids. And I wanted to check out and see if maybe one of the kids inherited his unique voice, and then maybe one of the other kids could play guitar like he. But it turns out that they didn't follow in Dad's path. And then at that point I was totally out. And then Paul emailed me one day and he said, Jason kind of expressed interest in maybe putting Dirty Looks back together, and up until I heard that, I was really out, but hearing that he was interested, then I was pretty quickly back in at that point, but we had to set up rehearsals, and because if it didn't sound good, then there's no way I was going to do Dirty Looks. Like a lot of bands, they get together and there's one original guy or a couple of original guys.
Yeah.
And they throw the band back together and just, do all the big shows. And I was not going to do that. So we had to get through rehearsal, and it had to be good. And fortunately, rehearsals were much more fun, much better than I thought they were going to be. So then at that point, I got excited about doing it.
Nice. Very, very cool. What can you say about Jason's tone for the Dirty Looks music compared to what the fans were used to when it came to hearing him with Dangerous Toys?
Well, the one thing I didn't want Jason to do was try to sound like Henrik, try and fit that spot, because it would have, I think it would have been cheesy and just contrived, and I just didn't want to be a part of anything like that. But so his voice actually fits the band, I think, very well, and it doesn't matter what I think. I talked to the fans until I got kicked out of the Speedway, and everybody really had a good time. Everybody loved Jason and his voice. They thought he did a good job. So as far as I'm concerned, as far as I go to care about things like that, it all comes, no matter what I like, if I talk to fans and people that like the band, and they are like, yeah, you guys sound like crap, there would not be another show. Like, if Jason didn't work out, it would be like, lucky you came to the Speedway last year, and we're done. But I love Jason's voice in Dirty Looks. I mean, obviously I love Jason's voice in Jason's voice. But I think he fits, I think it there's nothing fake about it. Him and Henrik were friends. They hung out. He was the only singer that I think ever got up on stage with Henrik. And
oh, wow.
And just because of that bond alone, that gives it all the credibility that it needs or needed for me to kind of be able to even do it. And I mean, Jack and Paul, it's like, we obviously, it didn't take us anything to get back up to speed.
Absolutely, 100%. Before I kick it over to the boys, hey, Steve, I see that we can't see your face. I don't know if you can see us, but I wanted to touch base real quick. Can you hear me, brother? I think it's currently got you muted. I just wanted to see if you're connected with us.
He may be driving.
No worries.
It's Daisy.
It's all good. No problem. We'll get connected with Steve again in just a second. But Bobby, let's kick it up to you, brother.
So I'm going to throw this out. We brought it up a little bit. Steve, right now you, playing a little bit of drums, and let's talk a little bit about Mudvee. How'd you wind up hooking up with that deal?
Really?
Yeah, Gene, come on. Let's talk about the whole thing there.
Okay, so how that all started was Dirty Looks way back. We had the absolute best road crew on the face of the earth. And our tour manager, so like before our tour manager started working for Dirty Looks, he tour managed Slayer. So
Slayer.
So the Cool from the Wire tour, we had Slayer's tour manager as our tour manager. So I was like a super fan of our tour manager because he toured with Slayer, and they were one of my favorite bands all through adolescence. And then so to be able to roll around the country in your tour bus with Slayer's tour manager, that was pretty much to me cooler than doing the Cool from the Wire tour. So throughout all that, I would hang out with our crew, and everybody that was our crew member went on to touring entertainment crew superstardom. And so our tour manager, Doug, around the time that I hooked up with Mudvee, he was out on tour with Green Day and on the American Idiot tour.
Yeah,
And
wow.
so just there were some things going on in my life. And I said, hey, man, you've got to hook me up with the band. And so he's like, well, I've been trying to find you a band. Obviously, I was bandless at that point. And he said, so there, if I'm still looking, I'll never give up on looking for a new band gig for you. And I'm like, look, I'm not talking about that. You've got to get me on a tour, or you're going to be reading bad things about me in the news or whatever. And so he reached out to a few. So going back, he said, well, there's no drumming gigs. And I'm like, I will stage manage. I can do that. Just find something. He's like, you would do that? And I'm like, yeah. I mean, do you think I'd rather sit in Baltimore and play the local Baltimore bars, or do you think I would rather stage manage in arenas and fun stadium shows? And so he's like, okay. And then so a few weeks later, he sent me a few bands that were looking. The first one was actually Anthrax, and
Nice.
I missed that by 2 weeks.
Oh,
That would have been spectacular because, I mean, Charlie's huge influence.
Charlie's amazing.
Anthrax, another big band all through high school for me. It's like I just devoured them and his drumming. And so to be able to like stage manage a band like that and work for Charlie, that'd be spectacular. And then but tour manager's like, oh, I missed it by 2 weeks, but keep your information, call me back later. Can't believe we're talking about me stage managing. And so then a week later, so I get a thing from Mudvee. I talk to their tour manager, and I tell him all my information. And Matt, he plays pro drums. I play pro drums. And so I already knew all the people that were dealing with him, all of his reps. And I'm like, and I can play all their stuff. So for sound checks, you're not going to find anybody that can get the kit as close as me. And because a lot of drum techs, they're not drummers. Some are, but so they like that, and they like that I had the pro drum experience, and so I hoped it would work out, and it did work out, and so I was with them from 2005 till they hit the pause button to go and do Hell Yeah.
Wow.
So thanks to my Dirty Looks crew and knowing those guys, that's how I got into it.
very cool.
That's so rad. That is super duper cool, man, for sure.
Yeah, what's super cool? I mean, like my day job was I got to basically watch Matt and Ryan every night and get paid for that. I mean, come on. And
And and I'm like, oh, I'm tuning drums and having a great time with Mudvee, and I'm like, yeah.
And the band's going out with like Rob Zombie in a little while, and Power Man 5000 and Static X.
There's some situations in my life because kind of I'm docked right now. I can't go out on tour, so they had to find somebody else.
I got you, brother. No, absolutely. Steve, let me touch base again with you, brother. Are you with us?
I'm talking to customer support with StreamYard. I know you can hear me, right?
Gotcha.
Yep.
Yeah, loud and clear, brother. Do you want to get in? Are you available?
Yeah, I'm trying to get on, but I can ask a question in the meantime while I'm trying to deal with lovely technical
Steve, do you
support.
have clothes on? We really want to know.
Not really. Just a smile.
Yeah,
You're on.
Oh my God, I'm like,
Nice.
this is great.
Well, real quick, Steve, before we have you ask your question, man, you just missed us, but the Bobby and Angel, they were talking about what a great job you did and what a great admiration they had for Rock and Recovery and everything that went down at your show, bro.
Well, thank you for that, guys. It was a bit of a clusterfuck, not gonna lie.
No, Steve, you did a great job. You did a great job, brother.
9 volunteers, 3 only showed up. So we'll just leave it at that. There's more to it, but to protect the innocent, I just want to give a shout out to all the great bands that did come and everything, because they did exceptionally well. And then also the DJ, the sound guy was great.
Oh,
It was a great show overall, but there was a lot of kinks that, let's say it was definitely something to say. I learned a shit ton from it because there's so many things with a 501c charity you don't know until you actually do it. Like when I did Breast Fest a couple years ago, it wasn't for like, I'm not a charity. I donated the money to a charity. It's a whole different thing. And I could have gotten in trouble from what I understood, but at that time I got 5 bands together to do a benefit for support for breast cancer awareness. And this was for a great charity and a great cause. And hopefully, we got the name out there. Bands got to play in front of new people, and bands got to meet new people, and hopefully everybody had a good time. And here we are.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Some of the bands are going to be playing Masquerade, which is even better too. So, gave them a little, warm-up gig, even though a lot of them do play quite frequently. Not as much as they should, because some of these bands were pretty freaking amazing.
That's awesome, brother. Again, well, happy birthday, man! And we're glad that the gig was able to go through and everything, man. Yeah. So absolutely, brother, for sure. So let's kick it to you, my guy. It's all you.
Right on. So, Gene, welcome to the show. Sorry you can't see my fugly face, but that's actually good because I do have the perfect face for radio. So here we are. So, my question is, I went on Wikipedia. I have been familiar with Dirty Look stuff, but I'm going to admit it. But there's been a lot of member changes. I know you mentioned about Henry passing and everything. Let him rest in peace, of course. However, my question is, how do you guys put it all back together without, playing for so long? You guys are all professionals. I see that because you guys have played in other bands. You mentioned being in Mudvee and whatnot, Jason with Dirty and Dangerous Toys, and it must be hard. Or do you guys just say, okay, we're gonna put 20 songs and we're just gonna go out and kick ass and take names, and here we are?
Well, the member change thing, that really wasn't, I had nothing to do with that. I had left the band by then. But yeah, it's like, if you look, and there is like quite a revolving door scenario after I left. I think it was only about 2 or 3 drummers before me. But then after me, there's probably like about 872. And
see, I thought it was like 871. So I'm glad you clarified that.
Okay.
Thank you.
And did you count me?
Yes.
Okay. So, but
I'm a bad Jew. I'm not really good at math. So here we are.
What's that?
I'm a bad Jew. I'm really bad at math. So here we are.
That is bad. So I think I joined the band in '86, even though Wikipedia says I came in at '87. But we played so much that I would never have to practice to play a Dirty Look song for the rest of my life. It's so deeply embedded that I was talking earlier to the guys about rehearsal and having it being so much fun, because those songs come back and they're effortless to play. And so, I mean, we had to rehearse a little bit. I think we rehearsed maybe like 3 days. And so really, it was mainly just to, I guess, shake loose the cobwebs and then and get comfortable with Jason and the new guitar player. And because, we don't just have Jason, we have a new guitar player, because Henrik was also such a good guitar player. He was, he was very much in the Malcolm role of like just a solid band grounding rhythm guitar player, that we actually thought initially that, because Jason plays little guitar, and we thought we could get away with Jason playing guitar, but with this band, you really need a full-time, like, great, solid rhythm guitar player. And so our rehearsals were mainly getting Jason in and David in, and like I said earlier, making sure that it worked and sounded and like above all to me, felt really good. So luckily David worked, because it would be a drag to have to like do multiple guitar player auditions, because that's like the bane of my existence. There's like nothing that I don't like more than auditioning guitar players. So it really magically kind of came into existence very quickly. Like within the first song, we were all like looking at each other going, huh, this is good. And they looked at me like, I'm like, yeah, this is going to work. So it didn't really take much. And, you know, all the member changes, it's like, you know, we were basically I'm talking about the Atlantic Records lineup of Dirty Looks. We were the longest running lineup. We were there at the zenith, you know, the peak of the band. And so it was kind of like it's in our DNA at this point of just easily churning out that music. I guess the hardest part for me from a drumming standpoint was I so do not play anything like that at all in my life anymore. Like I've evolved as a drummer since then, and a lot of the music back then, if you were a drummer of that time period, you were forced by producers to like only play like to basically hold back a lot. And live, watching me play live and then listening to me what I play on Cool from the Wire is 180 degrees, because I didn't have a producer telling me what I couldn't do live. And so I did what I felt the songs needed to have done to them live. And because I was a little impressionable 21-year-old kid making the Dirty Looks album with Max Norman on Atlantic Records, I had to do with that. You know, if Max said something, I obviously listened because Max was God, and I was kind of like in awe of him. So kind of, you know, I dialed it way back. And so now playing how I play now, which going back to Dirty Looks was really difficult. I mean, I guess only that's might be a thing only a drummer could understand, or maybe guitar player, bass player too. I mean, if you're like, take a Ryan Martini, for example. If you were to put a Ryan Martini into Dirty Looks, he'd be like, no, I'm out. So that was the toughest thing for me, dialing it back, scaling it back, and at least I got to play live, so I could still play how I play in Dirty Looks live. But even that was just, you know, those beats playing that same groove throughout a verse. It was, you know, that like in movies where they like stretch out a long hallway scene, like a verse of Cool from the Wire to play now for me is like one of those. I'm like, oh my God, when is the chorus going to get here? I can't play this simple anymore. And so that, I don't know if that answered your question to your satisfaction.
Absolutely.
But, okay.
So do you feel that you've progressed as a drummer?
Oh yeah, I have absolutely evolved as a drummer, because I keep inputting, like I always listen to new music in addition to like, so I keep all of the music from when I was an 11-year-old kid practicing 8 hours a day to, you know, from the left side of the dial to the right side of the radio dial. And, you know, until my father came home kicking on the ceiling and telling me to stop practicing anymore. And so I'm always listening to music. I'm always practicing. I'm doing recording sessions. I have, you know, and for a number of years I taught. So the coolest thing about teaching is whatever your students bring you, you have to learn and transcribe. And so I got to listen just to basically all the music of the time throughout like a big arc of time. So what I was not listening to, for whatever reason, probably good reason, probably bad reason, whatever, or well, good reason or bad reason is strike that comment from the record. So I'd listen to what I liked because I thought that was good. My students would bring in what they like. A lot of that I might not think it was good, and I would be kind of maybe like closed-minded and say, I'm not going to listen to that crap. But then once you listen to it and then you learn it and then you teach it to someone, then it gives you like, huh, I wouldn't listen to that on my own, but what a great band. So I learned a lot. I learned of a lot of new, really good bands from my students. And one of my favorite bands to this day is punk rock band Rise Against. And I would have learned of them eventually, but I learned of them because of one of my students. And I couldn't wait for his lesson because that meant I had to play Rise Against. And I'm like, I'll teach you every single song. Just you want to come to drum lessons for like 4 hours? Okay, we'll do Rise Against for 4 hours.
Great.
So all that kind of stuff helped me as a drummer, and I am still to this day a great big music sponge. Like I can't listen to enough music, and the problem is when people ask me like, "What's your favorite song? What's your favorite band?" It's like there's no way I can answer that question because I'm always jamming new stuff into my head. And so I think that keeps the playing fresh. I know a lot of guys that haven't evolved from, since when Cool from the Wire came out. I would kill myself if I was one of those guys because I just need lots of content.
Nice. Super duper cool.
That is really cool.
Angel, give me just 1 second, bud, before I kick it to you, because something kind of hit me that kind of is part of something that Bobby brought up and something that Steve brought up, and it just kind of got me thinking. So when we had mentioned, you managing for Mudvee, Gene, where you were talking about loving Slayer because that was your tour manager, Dirty Looks. And then I got to thinking about what Steve brought up about, you evolving and stuff like that. What was it about when you joined Dirty Looks back then? Was it the right opportunity or was it the right sound? Because you kind of got me curious about being like a fan of Slayer, where what was it about joining Dirty Looks as opposed to looking for, for like a Testament or a Death Angel or an Exodus?
Like opposed to looking for, question. So I was in a Baltimore cover band. Baltimore heavy metal cover band. We played like a lot of Priest, a lot of Maiden, a lot of Sabbath, a lot of Accept, a lot of really good metal of that, pretty much like the best metal bands of that time period. And so we were based out of Maryland. And at that time, there was a Maryland Musician magazine and a Pennsylvania Musician magazine. So every place we played, I would pick up both of those. And so in the Pennsylvania Musician magazine, I noticed a band that was way more professional looking and in appearance and in ad, and they were promoting their album of originals. And so I just gravitated towards that ad. And my band, we had one original. Like we were a great band. Like you couldn't ask for better guitar players, better bass player, better singer. We nailed all the stuff that we played, and that was a band called Strong Arm, but we had one original, and on our set list, we didn't even give the proper respect to this song by putting the name of the song. The person that made our set list, he just wrote original, and so every night when we played, I'm like, okay, here's original, and so I needed to be in an original band. And so when I was in that band, I was kind of like looking at Dirty Looks, and I just saw that, and I'm like, they're original, they kick ass. Hey, Joe, I've got to join that band. I've got to be in that band. So initially, there was a little bit of, I want to be a heavier drummer because I was naturally. But I also, so it was a bit of an opportunity situation because they were, in my view, on my radar in this area, they were the biggest thing that I could jump into to do what I wanted to do. Like, I loved my band, but we weren't aspiring to be all original and get the hell out of town and just write a shit ton of songs and put an album out. That wasn't on our goal sheet. And I needed to be in a band that was driven, focused, and wanted to get where I wanted to go. So they were like the coolest, heaviest, most real, which is another important thing. They had to be real because that was an era of way too much makeup, way too much hairspray, and while I'm, that was great, but that wasn't me. So, all the bands that were in Baltimore that I could have played with at the time, they were kind of like that. And I saw those guys. I'm like, okay, they wear kind of like pretty cool clothes. They don't have their hair poofed up to, the ceiling. And then, so opportunity meets the right band at the time. And, just because I like Slayer doesn't mean that, I'm not multifaceted and can easily lock into with these guys. And it was a matter of really locking in, which was, it felt pretty cool, like to lock into, like seriously lock in. And you don't know what that is until you really get into a situation where you have that. Because I was tight with every band I've ever been in, but I've never been in a situation where you lock in and you can feel that kind of like that chunk of a hard, heavy door slamming, like this is, it's like, for the first time, I feel like something is real. So it was very real to be with those guys, because when I auditioned, it was only Henrik and Jack. And it just had a feeling like, like clouds parting and sun shining, and you have to be here because this is the right thing for you to be doing at this moment in your life.
Absolutely.
That makes sense.
That's super duper cool. No, that's great, Gene. I love that. Thank you so much, brother, for sure. And Angel, thank you. And let's kick
about that though. Like,
oh yeah.
So we had a manager that got a different Baltimore drummer hooked up with them, and when I didn't know this until I went up to him one night at the Seagull Inn, and I showed him, like, you know anything about this band? And he's like, yeah, I hooked him up with their new drummer. And I'm like, what? So we, I said, I'm going to leave out all the life-threatening stuff that I said to him. But we left the conversation at, they're going to call you back because this drummer's not going to last. And I am the only person you were going to recommend. You're going to tell them they have to audition this guy or I will kill you. And then so about 2 weeks went by, and I got a call from him saying, hey, you got to audition with Dirty Looks. I'm like, oh, cool. So I shoved my way to my kit. I shoved my drum set that would have been perfect for Slayer into a van and drove it up to audition for Dirty Looks. And so.
That's awesome.
But good question, opportunity thing, because not a lot of people catch that.
No, super cool. And no, thank you, Gene. No, I appreciate that for sure, man. And that's awesome. I really dig on that for sure. Angel, man, let me kick it up to you, man. Thanks again. How are you doing? How are the Metal Summoners?
I'm awesome. So is everybody. We got the original drummer from Dirty Looks watching.
Cool.
So Jesus says hello.
Hey,
We're kind of doing this thing with Wikipedia to see if they're getting things right. According to Wikipedia, Paul, you was in the band from 1984 to 1985. Just because they've been getting it wrong.
Crossfire?
Yeah.
Was he?
Already then.
Just curious at how accurate Wikipedia is. Nothing against them.
It says Bobby's a French model. I'm kidding.
No, I'm a hand model.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Yeah. See?
Keep rolling with it, Angel.
Oh.
Hand model. Who the fuck comes up with hand model? Out of all the things you could have said, you say hand model.
Well,
he can't bring his feet up because he broke a hip, remember? That's why his feet.
I'm old. My bones are brittle. Dainty. I'm very dainty.
There you go.
Oh,
wow, like everybody's like, it's like a family reunion. You see what just popped up?
I see Steve's.
That was for the foot fetish people out there.
Right.
Oh.
Okay. Actually, Paul was in a band longer than that. See, so you cannot believe everything you read on Wikipedia.
Okay, Paul. So your buddy Steve, responsible for the logo. So it's good to know the guy that stole the logo from Dirty Dancing.
Is that what it is?
I don't know.
thought so. You know, I
You
always
tell me.
thought, I looked at it. I kept going, man, why does that logo look familiar?
That's why.
Who put baby in the corner?
Not I.
And thank you, Stephen Murphy, who was the second guitar player. He's also watching. Thank you.
Oh my God.
That's so awesome.
It is awesome.
Hey, Steven.
I wonder if Steve has first copy still of that album. They're hard to get.
Inquiring minds want to know.
Yeah.
Okay, let me get to some fan questions before I get murdered for not getting to it. Kyle, did you ever play with a Baltimore band called Child's Play?
I did not, but I hung out with them forever. And I'm surprised he asked because Child's Play was actually the Dirty Looks backing band after I left the band the second time.
Oh.
Oh.
Interesting.
What does hand model mean? I didn't catch that.
Hand model? Yeah, didn't you ever see
Oh.
hand models?
No, I mean somebody wrote
And models, they use a lot of lotion.
Okay, yeah.
I noticed Steve was using quite a lot.
You got to put the lotion in the basket. Remember that.
You sure do.
Or else you get the hose again.
Okay, let me get
Okay.
to the other one. Will Dirty Looks be working on any new music?
Maybe. I guess the big bummer about us living pretty far apart is, I mean, I know we can do everything remotely. And we have been working a little bit on some new music. So that could be something that might happen in the future.
Okay.
But right now we have this.
Hold on 1 second so I can bring that up.
What
Not the
is
face.
it? Can you see?
I
Yeah.
know.
Here,
There we
like,
go.
just put
Yeah,
it
there you
up.
go.
We
I
just
know
put
what
out
that
this
is.
way. So this is it's not new music, but it's new Dirty Looks music, and which is a CD and a DVD of our show last year.
very cool.
Yeah, cool from the Speedway.
Oh,
I've got a Lillian Axe question.
yeah. Can you tell us about your time?
Yeah, I was going to say Lillian Axe was going to come at you at some point, Gene, because it was definitely going to come from me.
Really?
Yep.
And why?
Poetic justice.
That was a good album.
Yeah, man. But Angel, go ahead with the fan.
Yeah, just if you can talk about your time in Lillian Axe.
Anything specific? There's a pretty good bit of time. How did I join the band? You want to know that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How'd you get?
Yeah,
How'd you want to
yeah.
get?
Angel, was there anything specific in the question, or?
No, but I will keep looking in the comments section.
No worries, brother. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Gene, how'd you join?
Okay, so I had just left Dirty Looks, and I started a band in Baltimore with a couple of guys, and I needed a singer. So a friend of mine who writes for a local paper, she invited me to come see Lillian Axe at a place called The Network. And so I kind of like listened to some of their stuff, and I liked their singer. And I mainly went there to see, I'm surprised I didn't sue him too. So I went there to see Lillian Axe, mainly hoping to meet their singer and try to steal him for my band. Ron had a great voice. I loved his voice. And so he would have been perfect for the band I started. And so I went there, but they tried to get me there to get up on stage and play a song to audition me because they were getting rid of their drummer. So we both had ulterior motives. And so I played Honky Tonk Woman with them. We got along pretty good. And then we went out to Denny's afterwards, and I caused some trouble. And, so I pretty much gave them a preface of what I would be like on tour, just so they knew what they were getting into in the event that I ended up in that band. And so, so I went there looking for Ron. They pulled me in to look, hopefully I'd be the drummer. And then, so I gave up on my band and joined Lillian Axe. So that's how I got in the band.
Cool.
And my
Do you
question.
Want a smart way that I was able to get down to Mississippi and New Orleans and be the drummer for them?
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
We love
so
cool
since the
stories.
question was, and I figured I'd make one up. So the way that we got everything started was really smart. And if you're a musician listening, take note. So basically, they had just been dropped from MCA, and I just dropped myself from Dirty Looks in Atlantic. And so I live in Baltimore. They were down south, so we had to get me and my drums down there. So what happened was we booked a tour and got all the advance money, and that's how me and my drums got down to Mississippi and ultimately New Orleans. And then so our first thing, we went in the studio, we recorded new songs, and then we went on tour. And so we went on tour shopping those songs to a new label. So it was a pretty brilliant strategy to put a band together and hopefully ultimately get it signed to a new label. And we successfully did that. And that was the coolest part of being in Lillian Axe. It's like how that all happened.
Nice.
And our demo tapes were a lot heavier than things ended up being in the real world.
Gotcha. How did the recording for Poetic Justice go?
It went great. We had played a lot live, so just like in the Dirty Look scenario, we were obviously not as the songs weren't as road tested, but they were close enough. And we had Leif Masis as our engineer, who did the Jeff Beck's guitar shop with Terry Bozzio. And as soon as I heard that, I'm like, okay, that guy. Nobody else, that guy. Anybody that recorded Terry Bozzio, I have to be in a recording studio with him. Just like with Dirty Looks Cool from the Wire, we had Max Norman, who recorded Randy Rhoads. So, I mean, so obviously I'm a drummer that players, yeah. And so produce, and I've always been into producers too. So to have guys like that to sit there and just like constantly learn from was pretty spectacular. So it was great recording. We recorded in my hometown in Sheffield Studios, and great studio, huge room, just awesome staff, and it flowed. It was very easy to record those songs. My plan, you can like talk about my drumming evolving over time. You can listen to Dirty Looks and listen to Cool from the Wire, and then listen to Turn of the Screw, and that's night and day. I mean, those two albums are very different. And then listen to Turn of the Screw from bootlegs to Poetic Justice, and I don't sound remotely like the same drummer. And so It's all a progression of where you're at, what the song is, what the song needs, and maybe, a little tiny bit of what you can hopefully get away with. And I just wanted to record an album with the guy that recorded Terry Bozzio, because there was a certain period in my life where I just didn't listen to anything but him, because he is absolutely like the most gifted drummer ever on the face of the earth. I mean, there's no one, not too many people have done what he has done for our instrument. I mean, just, I don't know if you guys are Terry Bozzio fans, but
Yeah.
the man is insane and devoted and brilliant and spectacular, and he's genius.
Absolutely.
So that all said, I was very disappointed in Leif Masis because we did not do pre-production for that album, which is total bullshit. So this is funny. I mean, our pre-production was, I made him come to my mother's house when she made her famous lasagna, and we watched Lillian Axe videos after we ate on the television. That was our pre-production. He did not come to a show. He did not really, put a lot of thought and effort into anything. Like Max Norman was night and day. I mean, just totally different scenario. But yeah, so Leif Masis came to my house, watched us on TV, ate my mom's food, and then poof, in the studio we went and recorded the album.
Oh, jeez. That's a trip. So, and Gene, since we're on the topic of Lillian Axe, I mean, do you want to comment at all about your departure from the band? Because we don't have your drumming on Psycho Schizo.
We sure don't. It's because I left.
Right.
I guess so. I came from Dirty Looks, a band that mainly was based out of New York City, and I am of that mindset. And like I said initially about the demo tapes being heavier than the album, when I initially landed in Lillian Axe, I really liked what we did on those demos. They were fresh, they were heavy, heavier, and I don't like that we scaled it back, because going back to my musical upbringing and like the Slayer thing, I wanted to be heavy. I tried to bring a bit of heaviness to every band that I've ever played in, while not being overbearing. Just I like to push things like right up to the edge to make it tolerable. And so it just got to the point where the heaviness kind of went away, and then just the band went into a different direction, and it was just a direction that I didn't want to go in and wasn't really comfortable in. And our manager, flat out 100%, he just sucked. He screwed up our visas. We didn't get to go to like this one European tour, and I wanted the band to fire him, and the band wouldn't fire him. So I have to fire myself. And because I knew that, just like with Dirty Looks, when a band peaks, and because you're there. And then once you see yourself and your band kind of like sliding down, you're like, oh crap, this isn't good. And so I could tell that things were sliding down, and I didn't fit in. So if you don't fit in and you're not making gobs of money, then you can't stay. And even if you're making gobs of money, you don't really want to stay. You need to go and find something better. And after that, I had I don't know if you're going to ask me about Dr. Butcher, but I had Dr. Butcher to go into after the Poetic Justice tour was over.
Gotcha. I got you, brother. No, for sure, man. It makes sense. It's that staying true to yourself thing.
Yeah, you absolutely have to. But the people I met while I was in Lillian Axe, like, I loved just playing and doing shows and hanging out with the wonderful people that loved that band. And hi Kim. And so that part, like me, I don't like I'm in a basically I play drums to meet people. So I stayed in Lillian Axe as long as I did because I loved the people that I got to hang out with on a daily basis. Because, you know, I'm the guy in the band that the tour manager gets irritated at and has to pick up and carry onto the tour bus over his shoulder, kicking and screaming because I don't want to leave. I want to hang out with people as long as I possibly can. And so that happened all the time. And so it was hard, not hard leaving Lillian because I knew I was leaving a great fan base I absolutely loved to death. So that part was a drag, big drag.
I got you, brother. Absolutely. Angel, before we bring back in Bobby and Steve, I just wanted to kick it back down to you in case we needed in case there was a question from you or anything that popped up from the fans.
Just from the fans on what happened to the demos.
What's that?
On what happened to the demos.
Which demos?
With Lillian Axe.
I'm pretty sure they put them out somewhere. But I mean, if you want to invite me to the studio, I can bring them.
Then let's. I was going to say, don't tempt Bobby.
Nod.
Where are you at, Bobby?
Bucks County in Doylestown.
Huh. I don't know. I've always got music to record, so who knows?
Nice.
But probably more interesting to you guys than the Lillian Axe demos are the demos I have with Dirty Looks when Chris Caffrey was in the band.
Well, I wanted to ask you right there. You and Chris have a in and out relationship, with Dr. Butcher and Dirty Looks, and the other person I wanted to throw in the mix there too was Robin Crosby. How did that all, wind up? Robin going from there to Rat.
I think Robin did Dirty Looks after me. That was after Rat.
Yeah.
In
93, according to.
Yeah,
Wikipedia.
Unfortunately, I wasn't around then. There had to be a producer that hooked that up. I have no idea how that ever would have come into existence. I know it didn't last very long. And I don't know if did they record anything with him?
I don't think they did.
That would have been cool to hear. I cannot see Henrik and Robin in the same room. That's only because I've been in rooms with them. I can't see them functioning as band members. But it would be cool to hear something.
And what about with Chris? I mean, what about the relationship there? Do you guys still have one?
Oh, absolutely. I just talked to Chris about 4 hours ago.
That's great.
And we were actually talking about Dr. Butcher.
Wow.
So Chris was in Dirty Looks for a little bit, and things didn't work out. And so Chris recorded Turn of the Screw with me. And then as soon as my drum tracks were finished, he was fired. And then we got Paul back. So the Dirty Looks firings were just great song. The firings were just irritating because I'd be sitting at home, like enjoying my non-touring, non-recording home cycle time. And then the phone would ring and then it'd be a guy from Dirty Looks saying, "Hey, it was nice playing with you, hope to see you again." And I'd be like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Well, I'm not in the band anymore." I'm like, "What do you mean you're not in the band anymore?" And so I'm not, Henrik just fired me. And so that happened a few times. And so that was like a big pain in the ass. So, but I was there for the Chris firing, so I knew that happened. But then Paul came back, and I think what part of what happened was Chris and I think Henrik and Jack knew.
Nice.
I'm like, who was your damn manager, Sharon Osbourne? It's like you guys had like a biggest fucking revolving door in this band. It's like, oh my God.
Man, you had management, didn't you? All right. Well, so let me finish the Chris thing first. So we flew out to California to record Turn of the Screw demos with Beau Hill to see if we vibed with Beau Hill. We did not. Not because we didn't like Beau. Beau was just not the right producer for Dirty Looks because what he did was way too clean, way too polished. You know, he made vocals that we could never do without running tracks live, and I would quit a band before I played in a band that ran tracks live. But while we were out there, Chris and I roomed together and had the same rental vehicle, and I guess Henrik and Jack got a taste of what going on tour with Chris and I would be like, and so maybe there was a meeting at some point where they said, okay, we got Chris, we got Gene. Gene's been around longer. Should we keep Gene? We definitely can't have Gene and Chris in the same band because they'll drive us out of our minds, and they'll probably cost us way too much money for like breakage of whatever. So Chris had to go, and then happily Paul came back, and Paul came in at a time where he just got to do his great Paul Idol leads, and Turn of the Screw was Turn of the Screw. And but Chris and I kept in contact throughout all that. Chris got a raw deal. He got thrown out of a band that he was happy being in, just under the I guess didn't fit in factor. And then when I got in Lillian Axe, hey Derek Rohrback, once I got in Lillian Axe, and I knew that my time there was limited, that's when I started talking to Chris, and I knew the last date of the Lillian Axe tour, and I'm like, okay, you need to be at my house anytime after then, and we'll start working on Dr. Butcher. So that's how that happened.
Jeez.
Oh my God! I'm telling you, it's like it's like the Real Housewives or something. Why don't you steal that logo?
I mean, speaking Dr. Butcher was amazing because I got to play with Hal Patino from King Diamond.
Al Pacino, what? No.
So when I was so I probably liked I probably liked Merciful Fate and King Diamond equally with Slayer, if not maybe probably a little bit more, just because of the guitars and the drums in that band were just outstanding. And so playing with Hal Patino, even that he was later in life King Diamond, that was freaking, I mean, that was awesome. I mean, somebody that you listen to them on albums and then you're playing with them. And then we had the Mountain King as our singer, John Oliva. So that was a great band. It was like, you could kind of call that one of the first heavy metal supergroup kind of things, just because John Oliva, Hal Patino, and I mean, not supergroup, but pretty much close. I mean, they're calling everybody a supergroup these days, so I will lump us into that category. Oh my God, look at that.
Wow.
Hi, Lisa.
Nice.
Can you tell us why there was such a revolving door, though, with the band?
Of what's that?
With Hendrik, why such a revolving door? I mean, was he a dick?
Steve, that question.
Oh, I saw that Lisa asked. That was you took her to her first Kiss concert. I'm just curious if that was your first concert.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Nice. Okay, back to you, Bobby. Sorry.
No. I just wanted to know I mean, why such a revolving door with this thing? Was Hendrik that much of a dick?
Angel, if you're able, while Gene's thinking that through, put up Paul's comment that he made just a second ago to Gene.
I love that pause there.
Me too. Hold on.
It's like the gears are going to like, how do you answer this
No,
question?
hold on. Sorry. Here it is.
There it is. There you go, Gene.
Yeah.
Trying to think of the best way to say it. It's complicated. You know, like in relationships where they always say it's complicated.
Yeah.
Being Dirty Looks was complicated. I mean, you know, bands are like marriages, only with 4 or 5 or however many people, and it's tough.
Dude, but that was like a bathhouse. You had a list there. That was like coming in and getting a reach
I
around.
didn't. Okay, so when I was in the band, there was 6 people. Okay, so it was a guitar player named Chris, and we got Paul for him, and then it was Chris Caffrey, and then back to Paul. So my period of the band, it was only those 6. Now, like you said, you can look on Wikipedia, and then you've got the 872 drummers after me. And that's just
like a grinder list.
kinda. But I mean, okay, so you're in your band at its peak on Atlantic Records, and everything has like an expiration date. And so when you go back home and you don't have major label funding and staff and tour support and, you know, recording budgets and all that really helpful stuff, you're left to your own devices, and you have to put, I mean, Henrik had a ferocious output of songs, and so you got to have somebody play on them, and when you're not Prince, and so he just had to fill the band. I mean, there's 4 positions in Dirty Looks, now 5, and you have to fill those positions with whoever is able to be there. And you know, if you don't have Atlantic Records money funding, then you can't really pay your band members. And so,
Gene, let me put this out. Look, there's a band that just put their album out that hasn't put one out in 14 years. Same 3 fucking members, and they've been there since day one. King's X. Never had major support, never had anything. Dougie's been a member here. You got 3 guys.
let me stop right there, okay? You said one word and 1 letter.
What's that?
King's X.
Of course.
They're one of the most spectacular bands ever.
But they're so underrated. They never got the what hurt them the most was the label Christian rock, and really, and Doug will tell you that it basically neutered them right there. But they are that band, and they're the same 3 members from day one to now. You talk about Hendrik being the guy, but there's so many members, and you had so many great members in the band. Yourself, Chris Caffrey, you know, Robin Crosby, and it was like, I think the finger gets pointed back to Hendrik. You know, like, dude, you're the problem.
Well, I mean, it's I guess you can classify it as a problem. But, you definitely can't. You definitely can't really compare Dirty Looks with King's X, just because King's X is in a category, you know, pretty much all to their own. And thankfully I was label mates with them, because I got into a lot of shows and got really good tickets and everything for free. So that was awesome. But I still would have paid to go see them because they're awesome. And I never even viewed that band as what do you say, Christian rock?
Well, that's what they got labeled with the first 2 albums. You know, it was.
I never labeled them that. I guess I never looked at them from that perspective. I just looked at them as just fucking awesome. And
Agreed.
But I mean, you got to talk about chemistry. King's X wouldn't be King's X if they suddenly got different people. I mean, you still have Doug and his voice and his bass, and you could probably, you don't even want to think about King's X with any different members.
It'd be like Rush without anybody else. It's the same thing. But do you think it's a toxic atmosphere that maybe that was there, that you guys had such? Because how do you define a sound with, you talk about a band like Dirty Looks, but you had so many members. Where do you say, where's the definitive sound? I mean, look, you look at Rat, and you know what a Rat sound is. You look at Queensryche. Thank God there are people who can come in and do certain things. But you know what I'm saying? How do you define the Dirty Looks sound?
To do so many things, sometimes that's not good. So, I mean, I'm weird about bands. Like, I won't see Queensryche now because I saw Queensryche on the EP tour.
Nice.
So I can't see Queensryche now because I don't want Queensryche now interfering with what's so deeply embedded in my brain of what I saw when Queensryche came around for the first time. I don't want to tarnish that at all. So what did Rick James say? Cocaine's a hell of a drug. Being in a band is hard,
Oh, Rick James, bitch.
Yeah. So being in a band is really hard. Keeping a band together is insanely difficult. If you want to keep your band together, set it out so it's equal. Set it out so it's transparent. Have the whole band in there for the manager meetings. If your manager sucks, get rid of them. During my time in Dirty Looks, I can easily say the manager destroyed that band. We had, and you would never think that because we were a band that everybody kind of put into an AC/DC category. And then when Turn of the Screw came around, hey, Mike Young, thanks for the symbols. When Turn of the Screw came around, we were managed by a company called Hard to Handle, which managed AC/DC. So if you can imagine, without very little effort, how excited we were that we were managed by AC/DC's management company, we're all thinking, we're going to open for AC/DC. We're going to, start looking for your new houses because we have one of the biggest management companies on the planet managing us. They destroyed us from the inside because they basically told Henrik it was only about him, and he believed them. And so a lot of bad choices were made. People's heads got big, and you didn't care about the band anymore because these managers were telling you not to care about the band anymore. We have other plans for you. And so it got to a certain point. He didn't care about the band. He didn't care about the label, and they killed us.
Gotcha.
So do you want to keep going on with that topic, or?
No, I'm just trying to figure out now, so you're doing the BLE event. Are you going to do the music that you did during that period for the BLE
That's all
event?
we're doing. Yep. We're doing Atlantic era music, the songs that we did. I know a lot of people want us to do songs off 5 Easy Pieces, but I don't think Jack played on that. I actually did the tour for that album. I didn't do the drumming on that album. So I'm kind of a pain in the ass in that regard, I would say, to the people that want Dirty Looks to play different music from different periods. I'm not going to play anything that I didn't play on. And that's just like, I don't want Jack to play on anything that he didn't play on. I don't want the same for Paul. I just want us to play what we can honestly represent to the best of our abilities. Because right now I don't even know what we call it. It's like, it's like a reunion thing. It's a tribute thing. I hesitate to call it Dirty Looks because, Dirty Looks is Henrik, it's Henrik's band. And we are just trying to give some people that want to come out and see that band a good interpretation of the legacy of that band. That is important to me, that we played the song. We played 17 songs. That is the longest show that Dirty Looks has ever done by freaking miles. And so we played songs that were never played live. And we played probably an hour longer than the band has ever played.
Nice. That's super
That's
duper
great.
cool. We got to bring in our beloved Psycho Steve. We haven't heard from him in a moment. So Steve, take it away. It's all you, guy.
So we brought up that you have a very eclectic palette of music that you like. Your friend posted that you took her to her first Kiss concert, and you said it was your first Kiss concert.
Right.
Where was it?
Concert.
It was your first concert at all, or it was your first concert overall?
It was my third concert overall.
Okay.
I think we were 11.
Okay, so your first concert overall, who was it?
That was Aerosmith on the Rocks tour.
Yeah.
Opening.
And who was opening?
Nazareth.
Wow.
Ooh.
Okay. Second
was
show was?
They were so drugged. It was I could tell how much drugs they were on, and I was 11, and I didn't know what the drugs were, but it was freaking fantastic. I mean, like, certain things, they get embedded into your brain. It's like I can still see that concert like clear as anything, and like the guitar player for Nazareth had a flying V with a mirrored pickguard, and like I spent half of the time watching them, like just looking at the pickguard, like, spotlight hits a mirrored pickguard and it goes to the top of the arena. I just sat there looking at the top of the arena, just freaking out. Like, it's like one of those weird life-changing things. Like, I've got to get myself a job where I can be in arenas looking out at the ceilings and just geeking out over this stuff. So that was my first concert. My second concert was probably like one of the best concerts ever, which was Alice Cooper on the From the Inside tour. And that was just mind-blowingly spectacular. And then third concert was Kiss on the Dynasty tour. And Dynasty,
So when you saw Kiss,
Kiss
who
album.
was the direct support for that?
What's that?
When you saw Kiss, was it New England that opened up for them?
No, I did see them live, though, and they were freaking amazing. But
Right.
Kiss happened to have AC/DC.
I was just about to say it could have been AC/DC.
AC/DC with Bon Scott.
Right.
And AC/DC blew Kiss off the stage. I mean, I just watching them and watching Angus and like on Bon's shoulders going around the arena, just playing guitar.
Mm-hmm.
My jaw hit the floor. I'm like, what the hell? What the hell is this? And who are these crazy people? I mean, that was like some of the coolest. That's probably one of the coolest things I've ever seen. To just seriously 100% full out badass rock stars doing the coolest rock star shit that you could ever want to see. I mean, AC/DC is like, as far as rock goes, I mean, do you get better than that? And so that was pretty, like, that was a life-changing concert, because that was the first time I took a girl to a concert. And but seeing AC/DC, that changed my life. I mean, I'd gotten beaten up in high school for liking Kiss Dynasty songs. I mean, I was made for loving you. Like, the people I used to make fun of for liking Skynyrd would kick my ass for liking that song. They'd literally come up to me, come on, man, you can't still like Kiss with that disco song. And, so I'd say something about Skynyrd, and one of them hit me. And stupidly, I didn't like Skynyrd back then, but obviously, I'd grown to let them in. And of course, obviously now I love Skinner because they're awesome. But back then, you know, seeing that show, I mean, have you guys ever seen AC/DC with Bon Scott?
No. I got to see him with Brian Johnson like 3 times, but never with.
So that's one of the things, like, I can, you know, happily say that I was there for that. You know, I got the KISS button that says KISS, I was there. But I'm like, yeah, I've got a little side note, like, yeah, I was there for, you know, Bon Scott. And, you know.
So you would say that.
What's that?
That you would say KISS is the reason why or AC/DC is the reason why you started playing drums?
KISS is the reason I started playing drums.
Awesome.
Well, actually, no. KISS is the reason. KISS is the band that, like, just full on flicked the switch. But I got into drums because of the Beatles, Buddy Rich, and Keith Moon, in that order. Because when I was 2 or 3 years old, my parents, I have no idea why, they're not musical. They're not musicians. I mean, they like music, so they're musical to that degree. But they would pull me out of wherever I was whenever the Beatles came on and whenever Buddy Rich came on, because Buddy Rich is on TV a lot. He was on all, like, Johnny Carson show and any whatever those shows were, he was on all the time. And my father wasn't a drummer, and I wasn't a drummer yet. But for some reason, he had the wherewithal, or he just loved Buddy Rich because he was a phenomenon. He put me right in front of the TV whenever he was on, and I just sat there and just, like, we just absorbed it all. And so at that point, that's when I started banging on everything because I was like 3 years old. And so one of those instances, they put me down in front of the TV when The Who was on. And so that was the legendary show when, at the end of it, that's when Keith Moon kicked out the bass drum and all the smoke came around and they just trashed the drum kit. And like, so that was another thing that was, like, hugely embedded in my brain. It's like, oh, so to be a drummer, that's what you have to do, you know, at the end of all your shows. And so, like I said, that was 3-ish. I got a drum set when I was 5-ish. I could play it okay. You could tell in the pictures I had, like, my sticking technique down. But one day I took it out on my front porch and I played for the neighbors and I destroyed the kit. I Keith Mooned my little toy 5-year-old drum set. I mean, I broke it to pieces, and my front porch was like perfect drum riser size. And it was concrete. So I just literally smashed it to bits and I threw it out in the yard. So you can imagine the parents' faces when they pulled in the driveway from work and here's, you know, Junior's little drum set, like, all over the front yard. And so I didn't have a drum set after that for a long time because they didn't immediately replace it. And I just thought magically, like, why aren't you replacing it? I Keith Mooned this. You showed me. It's your fault that I broke this kit because you showed me Keith Moon. And so I didn't get another, hey, Jeff. I didn't get another kit till I was 11, but I got a snare drum when I was 8. And because I watched so much Buddy Rich, then I just had that snare drum to do my Buddy Rich fast hand stuff on. And so that's pretty much what I focused on from age 8 to 11. No teacher, no relative, no one telling me to, hey, you should play drums. That's what I asked for. That's what I got. I taught myself. And so I am from Arbutus, Maryland. And so that's how I got into it. So when I was 11, that's when I got my first real drum set and electric guitar and amplifier for Christmas of that year. And that's when I saw KISS. And I didn't see him, I heard him. My best friend's brother came over with KISS Alive. And I couldn't play it forever because I couldn't stop looking at it. And so once I finally played it and heard it, I was like, you're not going to get this album back ever. And so I kept it. And I took it down to my practice room and I learned not only every single note on that album, I learned every single ghost note that Peter Criss did. It's like that's another album that I could probably play in my sleep anytime, just because I listened to it and practiced to it. I don't even, probably close to 1,000 or so times. I wore that shit out and then got more.
Nice. That's
Awesome.
Yeah, Steve, we're going to keep it with you, bro.
All right, because I am the biggest Kiss fan in the group. So as far as in Kiss shows, my first show was Eric Carr's first show in Manhattan, July 25th, 1980. So, and 711 times later, here we are.
Wow.
So, yeah. So now let's talk about you touring. Do you still enjoy it? Or is it more like, because you've done it for so long and you've done so many different projects from rock to metal to, is it more tasking or is it still enjoyable?
No. It's there's certain things that are kind of effortless to do.
Right.
I don't. How can anyone say that touring could ever be not good? I mean, whether it's whatever side of the curtain I happen to be touring on, there's nothing better than doing that. I mean, do you want to stay and work the same job for your entire life, or do you want a brand new, fresh, shiny, great office with catering every single day? That's what you want. I mean, I just I like traveling. I like that world, basically. I'm just wired for it. So
Sweet.
Definitely doesn't get old. I think it's a lot of fun. You can get jaded. The irritating thing sometimes for me and the people that I work with is that I'm not that jaded. I get irritated pretty quickly, but I like fix things immediately so they don't get on my nerves for too long. Like if you suck on a tour that I'm on, you're not going to have a good time because I'm going to call you out on your sucking like all the time. Every time you suck, I'll let you know you suck. But it's just a blast. I mean, it's something that you either love it or basically not a love it or hate it thing. It's you can hang with that kind of thing. You are capable of hanging with that, or you can't. So there's a lot of great musicians that once they get on tour, they realize that they can't operate in that world. And so unfortunately they don't tour, or they tour and they do things that are bad for them, and bad things happen, and that's not good either. So, but I love it. I mean, what part of a free vacation or a paid vacation around the world could ever be a bad thing?
Right on.
And so if you're a musician, you only work a couple hours a day. And if you're a stage manager, your day is a little bit longer, but it's still a pretty cool day.
Right. All right. And then I have one other question. Now, bands used to, back in the day when they did get signed, got advances. So as far as an advance is generally paid for the recording, but you also sometimes bands got some extra money to do whatever they wanted with. So when you got your first advance, what did you do with the money?
Well, we didn't necessarily just say, here's our advance, we're going to split it up 4 ways. Dirty Look's got a band house in our hometown area of Selinsgrove. And so it was a place where we could live and practice, and that was our kind of home base. Literally, we bought a house with our advance, which was a very smart thing to do. Dirty Looks did some very smart things throughout its lifespan, and that was definitely one of them.
Sweet. That's very cool.
Demo tapes from that house too.
Ooh.
That's super cool. That's super rad for sure. Absolutely.
We could have the demo tape 24-hour long show of stuff that I'm not allowed to play over the air.
we can make that a thing. No, absolutely. Angel, let's kick it down to you, man, and give you a little bit more time, as well as the Metal Summoners. But also, Metal Summoners, it is last call for alcohol, guys, as far as, getting questions into Gene, because we don't want to eat up too much of his night. So it is last call for alcohol, guys. Any comments, questions for Gene, get them in now. We will circle back around to make sure that the board is clear, but get them in for us. Angel, it's all you, buddy.
Yeah, just a couple of questions about the drums. When you were 11, did you ever try to play the drums the same way that Charlie Watts did? Just curious to ask.
Rolling Stones, absolutely. So, like, what I tried to do is whatever band I was practicing or playing along with, I would watch. Like, anytime I was able to see any of the bands, and especially concerts. Like, the coolest thing about concerts when I was a kid was, like, in Baltimore, it was the Baltimore Civic Center. And, like, with me being 14 years old, me and my friends would hop on a bus, go into Baltimore City, spend the night to buy tickets for all the concerts. And I saw every band that came through. And so I would always try to get seats where I had a good angle of the drummer. And that's all I did. I mean, I was laser focused on watching how he moved, how he played, how his kit was set up. Just looked at how he executed the fills. And so didn't really see too many, I can't remember a lot of the singers of the concerts, but I remember everything that every drummer did. And then when I came home, I would put on the albums of whatever bands that I had seen, and I'd play them and I'd try to execute them exactly. And so, like, when I was playing Beatles, I tried to replicate Ringo as much as I could, Stones, Charlie, Buddy, Keith. I love playing to the Who because, it's who doesn't want to play with, like, Wild Abandon. That's what I was kind of hoping that I would, in all the bands that I would end up being in, I was kind of hoping that I could just, hey, there's Chris Caffrey.
Yeah, because I texted him in the middle of our conversation.
Nice.
What's up, Chris?
Chris.
Hi, Chris. And so yeah, I love the Stones. Obviously, I still play them all the time, and I just watched a really good documentary on Bill Wyman called The Quiet One.
Yeah, great documentary.
If you haven't seen that, definitely watch that. It's spectacular.
What's it on?
I got it from my library, but it's called because I always go into the documentary section, and because I love that kind of stuff. I love learning about people.
Yeah.
And so I just picked it out. So I'm always, anything with Stones or John Lennon or the Beatles or everybody. I love documentaries. But it's called The Quiet One. It's Bill Wyman.
Nice.
I'm going to
And
check it
then
out.
Bobby, have you read the book Sound Man?
On no.
It's
Who
by
put it-
Glenn Johns.
Oh, I love Glenn Johns.
The guy
Yeah.
that produced the Stones. And so there's lots of good Stone stuff in that book. You have got to read that book. It's amazing.
I'm looking at it now. So what is it? The Sound Man?
Sound Man. I would just buy it if I were you.
What?
It's a spectacular book. I mean, he talks about there's lots of Stones, lots of everybody that he got me back into Steve Miller. Hey, Kevin.
Oh, I love that it's on Audible too.
Oh, good. And if it's read by him, all the better.
I'm looking at Glenn Johns, Soundman, Stones, Who, Zeppelin. Yeah, because I'm a big, the Headley Grange thing I done here. When I moved my drums, I have a 20-foot ceiling. So I recorded
Nice.
I took my kit down and did the, the 2-buyer 160s and, did the whole thing that way. So, yeah.
Well, you're not really doing that then. I was going to ask you what kind of mics you're using for that.
What?
For your Headley Grange situation.
Well, he used Buyer 160s for the overheads.
No. He used Neumann U67s.
I have my 67. Well, now I gotta move the fucking kit down again.
It just so happens that I have 3 Neumann U67 microphones.
How far away are you from Doylestown?
We'll definitely have to continue this conversation.
Hey, Lars just said I have 2 Lars's snares in here that I just got.
Oh yeah.
So
Nice.
yeah.
Fine.
They're Tamas.
Nice. Right back to you, Angel. What was real quick though, as a fan question, what was it that Chris posted? He said he asked if Gene had told a story. Did I read that right,
the
Angel?
bucket.
The bucket. Which bucket?
It said his signals keeps cutting out though.
I did not talk about the bucket.
Yeah, I was like, I don't think so. So, Chris, if you're able to clarify, we'd love to get that from you. Angel, go ahead, bro.
When you was 11, what records or drummers were the most challenging for you to learn as far as drum parts?
I don't know how old I was when I got the first Billy Cobham album, but I got a Mahavishnu album. I could not play it at all. That's like one of the things where I just listened in amazement. So that was like, that's probably the first mind-blowing drummer outside of like, Buddy Rich from the Always back to the TV and the Parents. So I would listen to that and get a lot of inspiration from that and aspire to play like that one day. And so that was my first, I can't play this kind of a drummer. So Billy Cobham was that guy.
So Gene, this is the of my snares.
So did Lars send that to you himself?
No, this is another that they only did a limited production. Ludwig did these for Mr. Alex Van Halen.
Oh, they're nice.
Which so they did 100 of these. And which he signed all of them and everything. So, but
awesome.
It's basically the same thing as Bonham's, but what he did is
he scratched it up.
Yeah, he scratched the shit out of it. But typical Alex. But oh yeah, and the snare wires. I mean, look, that's Alex.
Wow,
nice. That's awesome, dude.
So, look, I wouldn't have fucking hobbled all the way back there to bring this out here if we didn't have a good drummer on here.
Not yet.
Oh,
Bobby,
what's that?
Have you recorded with it yet?
Yeah, the guy who I recorded with, who used this, is a gentleman who was just at Mr. Steve's event on Sunday, Damien Monte Carlo, who was in Mach 22, who will be at the BLE event. Damien's and Damien works at. It's funny. I made him play a Ludwig drum, but he works for Tama Hoshino here in Ben Salem.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah, I mean, it's a couple of people have used it. I brought it up. Bobby Rock played on it, used it a couple times. So, it's got banged on by a couple of people.
Excellent. I wouldn't mind adding my name to the list.
Come up and bang.
Okay.
We love banging.
Oh yeah. So Gene, you mentioned the Beatles, so I got to ask you just as like some fun questions. Were you at Paul McCartney a couple weeks back in Baltimore? Oh, you weren't there?
No.
Ah.
Were you?
No, I was working that night, but the restaurant got popped, dude, by so many Paul McCartney fans, man. So we were rocking, dude. It was definitely heavy, but they had me on that night because they knew.
I want to be that badass at 83 years old. I mean,
I know, right?
think
That's
about
ridiculous.
Paul. It's like he and Ringo. I'm like, and Keith. They're like cockroaches.
Yeah.
Right.
I want to be that cool.
Paul does like a 3-hour fucking rock show. He does like
It was
30
insane.
like 30 something songs.
And even that's not long enough.
Yeah,
No,
So
it definitely doesn't.
His show should be like weekend camps, where you just pop out and do a couple of songs from a certain era, and just like, all right, have fun camping. I'll be back. I don't know when. And it just pops out later. Like one show is like, how can that ever be enough for somebody like Paul McCartney?
No.
and the catalog. I mean, you think about a catalog. Everything from not just Beatles, but Wings, solo stuff. I mean, I'm like, where do you and what do you pick?
I know.
No. Totally insane. So I also had to ask you this, bringing it back to Dr. Butcher, just for my own sheer curiosity, being the Metal Summit's resident like horror movie lunatic. And so I got to ask where the name came from. Does it have any ties into the 80s movie, Dr. Butcher, that was also called Zombie Holocaust?
No, not really. Outside
Okay.
of that's obviously where the name came from. But just like Lillian Axe, was there a Lillian with an axe? No.
Right.
But at least there was a Dr. Butcher.
Yes.
Still waiting for Chris to come in about the bucket, and maybe he could answer that too while he's at it.
I know.
Why that name was selected for the band. But that was kind of, when I came in, that was the working title of the band. So I wasn't part of the meeting to come up with band names.
Hey, Gene, real quick, if would you ever consider doing? And I know we have Chris listening, but would you ever do a spot with TSO?
Like an interview like this, or playing?
No. Play with, if you were ever offered the spot.
I gave Chris a little bit of shit today, just like on off topic of our conversation, and I'm like, yeah, I was a little pissed back then that I never got an audition call for TSO, but that's definitely a fun band. I mean, how could you not want to play with all that pyro and cool lights and
Amazing show. I've never seen a bad TSO show. It's kind of
Right.
like you said about King's X and everything else, or a bad Kiss concert. It's what you're getting when you go to a TSO show.
right.
For
And,
sure.
and so like I also got to play with Kiss when Eric Carr was the drummer for Kiss too. So that was kind of, since Eric Carr was brought up earlier, I wanted to say that. But yeah, that was pretty good meeting Eric and doing some shows with Kiss.
He was one of a kind, that's for sure.
Yeah.
What year
Absolutely.
did you get to do shows with them? And where?
88. So that was after or around the Cool from the Wire tour. So we did an outdoor show, and we did when they went back to the Ritz in New York. So we did 2 nights
was
with
there.
them at the Ritz, I mean, I was, pretty much crapping my pants because, when you get the Kiss Alive album and you get that booklet in there and they're talking about the Ritz. And so like for a Kiss fan growing up 11 years later, to be at the Ritz and, like before I drove to the show, I like looked at my book. I'm like, the Ritz, I'm going there. And I'm playing with that band. And so that was a serious weekend of me just geeking my drummy little Kiss fan brain out.
That's awesome. The other person who did that, and it's in his book, is Joey Casada. Hearing Joey's stories about that too. So, it's awesome hearing about that. It's when you get the, look, all of us are big Kiss fans. We wouldn't be doing this. That's really where the roots run deep.
Right.
From the horror end and everything, that's what got it. And, it's kind of funny, even at our age now, we talk about Kiss and I'm like doing the Kiss cruise and I'm, excited. But before we bounce it back, shout out, you are doing the Monsters of Rock cruise in the spring in April,
Yes.
or May with Max Sabbath, which is badass.
With what?
You're playing with Max Sabbath.
Who's that?
Of all the bands to point out, Bobby.
Oh my God, they dress up like everybody from McDonald's, the Hamburglar and everything.
Oh my, really?
And do Sabbath. But you got Extreme on the tour and everything else. And I looked at your bill and I'm going, dude, I might have to go on that. That just looks so badass. Who you're on the thing with. It's you, Joel Holmstrom, Max Sabbath, Takedo. So you're going to have a blast.
I hope so. I hear they're pretty fun. I hope I'm getting.
They definitely are. It's definitely pretty. They really are an amazing, unique show for sure. And one of the things on shows, before I kick it down to Steve, is since you had mentioned since the fans brought them up earlier, and you had mentioned playing with them a bunch. That Child's Play has like a reunion thing scheduled in Baltimore in August, and
right.
Depending on your schedule, if you didn't already know about it, you should definitely try to check it out, because that's a show I'm planning to attend as well, because it's Child's Play.
Yeah, I probably will. I have heard about it. I did put it on the calendar, and I actually run into John Allen a lot.
Yeah,
so
me too.
Yeah, he's a really cool guy.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. Steve, let's kick it down to you, buddy, before we kick it to Angel to make sure the board's clear.
Okay, so let me think of a question. Let's put a band together.
Nice.
Of course, you on drums, but who's singing? Who's playing guitar? Who's playing bass? Who's singing?
Anybody?
Anybody. It doesn't matter what genre.
Jeff Buckley is going to sing and play guitar.
Okay.
John Paul Jones will play bass and keyboards.
Nice.
Wow. Like where this is going. This is very eclectic.
We'll have to have Hendrix on additional guitar.
Okay. Do we have a keyboardist?
Well, John Paul Jones.
Okay.
But hold on. I'm brain farting. Who played keyboards on? No, hold on, not that guy. Man, see, this is like one of those "Who's your favorite band?" questions. Oh, I also want I want Phil to play bass from Thin Lizzy. I was just talking to somebody about Rick Wakeman, so all I can think of right now is Rick Wakeman on keyboards. Gary Newman on keyboards. I want Gary Newman on keyboards.
Oh, what a good answer.
That's a really messed up band going on right now, but I would love to see them.
That would be very, very psychedelic.
Dude, Gary Newman's doing like industrial metal now.
Really?
Really?
Yeah, he has like a side band that he does that my friend Ron went and saw them in like DC or something, and it's this just heavy like industrial sound. It was really cool. He showed me some videos he took.
Was that recent?
I think it was like right before COVID, like maybe the year before COVID, like 2019.
Yeah, I love him. here's another. There's like, I can't really start talking about influences because, you know, a lot of my influences aren't even drummers. People like that come into certain times of your life, and like him and Peter Murphy are some of just people that I absolutely just love to death.
That's
Just
about
because I just
So good.
something, you know, you hear music and no, not Richie Kotzen on vocals. Sorry, nothing against Richie Kotzen, but I mean, listen to Jeff Buckley. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. Just come on. That was probably the saddest thing to happen to music. I would say almost ever, just because I don't know if you guys are Jeff Buckley fans, but just imagine what he did with his first album, what he would be like today. You know, he wouldn't be Prince, but he would be in that realm. He's, you know, we really got ripped off when he died way too early.
Yeah, 97. I mean, his version of Hallelujah kicked ass.
Yeah, it's one of the best things you could ever hope to listen to. And being that young and doing that, even to be that young and even think to do that, like he has to get like huge points just for having the thought, hey, I'll cover Hallelujah and I'll do it better than everybody put together. And at that young, making that album, and of course, Bobby, you've got to like that album just from the production.
Well, the Grace album's amazing. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
it's the shit. But then you brought up but Leonard Cohen, the documentary that just came out, that Alan Light just put out, the movie that's getting ready to be put out about, you know, the whole thing about Leonard Cohen, and it's going to have Buckley in it, and which is really, really cool.
What advice would I give Glenn Danzig?
Oh. I love me some Glenn Danzig, so I can't wait to hear this.
Actually, I wouldn't have to give Glenn Danzig any advice because he picked John Christ to be his guitar player.
Yeah.
And I practiced with John Christ playing Judas Priest and Iron Maiden and Aerosmith songs when I was like 15 in my awesome basement band practice room. So good job, Glenn Danzig, on picking John Christ to be your guitar player. Because awesome. Man, I tell you what, when he came in, and like that's another, you know, it's another one of those artists that you play with throughout your life. Mm-hmm. I wish I was playing with John now, you know, not 15-year-old me playing with John for like a fleeting little bit, you know, because he, like, nobody knows how amazing John really is, because he doesn't get to be John real last name when I knew him, playing all that stuff. Like all the stuff that I played, like all the albums and all the bands that I tried to replicate to the best of my ability, he was the exact same way. So when I played with him, he was the first guitar player I played with that absolutely spot on nailed every single note. Like if any Priest song that we played, he was, you know, he played Glenn and KK just exactly perfectly. And like Aerosmith, like just note for note, it was like you were playing with everybody in all your favorite bands. So the limited time I got to play with John, it's just, I just sat there geeking out like, this guy's freaking amazing.
Dude,
so
that's sick.
That's funny. Somebody brought up Glenn Danzig.
I love Danzig so much. And the funny thing is, I'm a huge Misfits guy, but I got into the Misfits in the early and mid 90s when they relaunched with Michael, because the Glenn with the Misfits, I knew the songs that became quote unquote radio hits, but I didn't
Right.
Really, I didn't get to enjoy that time. So I was already a fan of Glenn as a metal guy before I even knew that he was in the Misfits. So suddenly with Michael, they're putting out, music videos on MTV, and they're really looking the part, where they were more that traditional punk with a slight horror edge back in the day. They were these straight up like movie monsters nowadays, or at least at that time they became these like movie monsters. But dude, I love the Danzig stuff so much. I think John is amazing. Those first 4 albums are just bulletproof with the original lineup, because you're right, Gene, nobody plays a guitar like John does. And I'll have to keep you in the loop, because a friend of mine is looking to do something with John soon, as far as like a public appearance. And so if that ends up getting scheduled, which I know it's going to, I'll make sure that you're kept in the loop for that.
Yeah, once in a while, I like find myself trying to reach out and possibly put something together with him, because I know he's kind of back in the area, and something in life comes and just like, it's like, oh, you have a good idea, it's like, you don't have time for that right now. And so, but yeah, he's like there. I have like a what I'd like to do sometime soon list, and he's on it.
That's awesome, man, for sure. Well, Gene, man, we can't thank you enough for spending some time with us this evening. Like, I shit you not, dude. These 2 hours like flew by. I looked at the clock and I was like, holy fuck.
Like, oh my God, it's 11 already? I'm like, dude, I could have brought out every 30 snare and, so but again, you're in the area. Look, instead of bringing them out, I'd rather bring you here and hang and do a bunch of things. But we will be seeing you at BLE, which is I'm totally stoked about.
Yeah, I can't wait. That's going to be awesome.
Absolutely. So fans, thank you guys so much. But yes, Philadelphia Masquerade, Friday the 29th, Dirty Looks and Gene Barnett. Angel, real quick, man, I just want to make sure that the board is clear. Is there any fans with pending questions?
No, just a lot of love, and everyone's just looking forward to seeing you at Masquerade. I just want to thank you for spending 2 hours with us.
Hey, thank you for having us. It was
great.
Absolutely, man. Gene, thank you so much. For anybody who's looking or anybody who wants to connect with you, where can they find you, Gene? Where are the best places to go?
They can go to the Dirty Looks Facebook page. They can go to our website, which is currently under construction, because, we haven't been a band forever, and now we have to be a band again. So we have to have all that good bandly stuff that people need to go to. Or my personal Facebook page is probably the best place.
Awesome. For fans that are attending Masquerade that haven't been able to go shopping in quite a while, will there be Dirty Looks merch?
There might be a couple things. We'll definitely have the new album, the Cool from the Speedway album. We'll have some shirts.
Nice.
And,
nice.
And if I can scrap together some more stuff, then we'll have some more stuff. And
Sounds
we're also
good.
doing the 30th at Selinsgrove the day after the Masquerade show, if anyone isn't close enough to come to Masquerade. And
Nice.
Selinsgrove, which is basically we have some pretty good shows there, just because that's kind of the home base area for the band, at least for the Atlantic Records era members of the band.
Nice. Actually, Gene, real quick before we cut you loose, let's just touch base on that, because we really didn't talk about it all that much. Cool from the Speedway is out, which is the CD/DVD that you guys released for your show last year. And what was the concept behind putting it out as a live concert? Like a visual DVD included.
Not really a big concept of putting out a live concert. It was kind of like one of those things where we only did that show kind of like as a test, to see how it was going to be. And because, like I said earlier, if it sucked, if it didn't hit my bar, or anyone in the band's bar, we're not going to do this. We're not doing Dirty Looks to get rich. So if it wasn't to our liking, then it wasn't really going to keep going. So we recorded it. We dumped tracks from the board, and we videotaped it, because we didn't know if we were going to be doing another one. So for all the people that couldn't go to where the hell is Selinsgrove, Pennsylvania, But actually, surprisingly, we had people coming from all over the country, which was really cool. And that crowd at that show was fan-freaking-tastic. It's like, I don't really, there's not a lot of Dirty Look shows that I played where I had that good of a time. And to all the people that, you know, want to hear a lot of dirt about Dirty Looks come out of my mouth, you know, having Jason sing, he was one of the reasons why it was so much fun. And you know, he's a big reason why we're doing it. But we just wanted to capture it because we didn't know if we'd be doing another one.
Sure.
And so, without taking up another hour of our time to spare you,
We're gonna bring you back now. I mean, dude, the stories are great.
to spare you the details of, like, you know, what it took to put that album out. It was, you know, we worked hard on it. So I'll just leave it at that. It's like, so we were glad we thought to take the tracks, take it to a studio, do the video, take the video to a studio. It was a lot of fun being part of the mix down and editing process, and the designing the album and all that stuff process. It was a lot of fun. When I was in Dirty Looks the first time, I lived in Atlantic Records, New York studios offices. I like slept on couches of people that did marketing for our albums. And so I loved that part of my life. And now we're kind of like, I think, what would Atlantic do in designing and coming up with this album? And so I set a bar for that. Kind of like, if this isn't, you know, like if your child isn't this high, he can't ride the roller coaster. If your album doesn't sound this good, we're not putting it out. And so I made sure that like I was happy with how everything turned out, because, you know, it was kind of iffy for a while. It's like, I don't want this to be out. But we fixed some things and went to a couple different studios. Mike Young, one guy that said hi earlier on, that was one of the studios that I went to get a few kinks sorted out. Another good band, Kinks. And so, you know, not a concept, just can we do this? And let's hope that we can do this. And if we do it, let's hope that it's good so we can actually put it out. And so it checked off the criteria and we put it out. And so far from what I'm hearing, people really dig it. So I'm super happy about that. And I'm really glad that we have the CD because, you know, I mean, yeah, you got a live album, but you got a live album you can watch because you couldn't be there. There's like nothing cooler than that. And I'm thinking back to like when I was a little kid, the only thing I cared about was seeing the bands. I just had to see the bands. And that's more important to me than anything. I think the people that get it, like people say, yeah, I'm listening to it on Spotify. And I'm like, fuck Spotify. Watch it. You know, if you can watch it, please watch it because, you know, that's where the fun is to me. Like listening, we can listen to shit on Spotify all day long, but we can't watch, you know, something that's 30 years in the making, you know, with New Edition members that really want to be there and are really good at their gig. Like Jason's great at this gig and Jason's a great band member. You know, like you play with a lot of people, you know, there's a good bit of people that you really don't want to play with. Jason is a, you know, really good person to have as a part of this project, as a band member, as, you know, support, help, doing his job that he doesn't even have to do. You know, it's like he's, you know, he can be, hey, I'm Jason filling in, you know, I'm part of this, but he is 100% in. And that's the coolest thing in the world to me, to have somebody like that you know, I respected and liked for so long. So it's kind of like mutual admiration society type thing going on. And same with David, you know, great guitar player, came to rehearsal like nailing it. I was expecting to go to rehearsals and slaughter the guy, you know, because you know, like I said, bad guitar player auditions are like, I've got PTSD from it. So it's like, if this guy didn't come to rehearsals like nailing everything, he was going to hear about it. But I was super happy. Like once he started playing, I'm like, damn, this guy's pretty much got it. And he's really high. He's very happy over there. And I could tell he was kind of shitting bricks at the same time, really kind of nervous, but he nailed it, knocked it out of the park. And you know, can't say enough good stuff about Jason.
That's awesome, man. And yeah, we can definitely agree with you on that one, with how much just that live event, getting to see the bands definitely is and stuff like
And
that.
again,
So, yeah.
Gene, thanks. I downloaded it. That I'm looking forward to listening to tomorrow while I'm on working out my leg. Sound
You're going to love it.
Glenn Johns, you know, and I ordered the book too. So,
Nice.
yeah, I mean, thanks for the recommendation on this. So it's Simon Vance who's reading it. So whoever held that, but yeah, I'm really looking forward. You know, just everything on that end. You know,
You're going to love that. I read it 3 times. Like, I just keep reading it. It was such a good book. So much good information in it.
So rad.
You should read it too, because there's lots of Stone stuff. Because I kind of get feel like the Stones a little bit.
I love the Stones.
We're not going to hear from Bobby for a week.
Good. It's time.
No, that's awesome. No, we love that kind of stuff. But dude, Gene, thank you so much,
Yeah,
man.
great night.
We'll cut you loose for the night. We really appreciate your time. Again, Metal Summoners fans, Dirty Looks fans, late July, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, 300 Arena on Friday the 29th, and then they got the follow-up show on the 30th as well. And we also want to say thanks to Paul, Steve, and Chris. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in and watching.
Oh my God, yeah, I was
supporting the show. So, guys, we appreciate you guys tuning in as well. But Metal Summoners, thank you guys so much. Guest announcement on Friday, and we will see you guys next weekend, and we will see you guys at Masquerade. On behalf of the Island Misfit Toys, on behalf of Bobby Dreyer, Angel Alamo, and the Real Psycho Steve, and again, thank you so much to Gene Barnett, Dirty Looks drummer extraordinaire, for spending his time with us. We will see you guys next week on our next episode. Thank you guys so much. We love you. Take care. Have a great weekend. As always, you've been watching the Metal Summit.
Yeah.